Hey everyone, welcome to Moving Matt. We do all things cameras with a dash of vlogs and a little bit of travel. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a bit happy today. So the Canon EOS R5C was just announced, and I gotta say, it lived up to my expectations in a lot of ways. It surpassed them in some, but there's a few tiny things that keep it from being what I would call the perfect camera. But I mean, they're fairly minuscule. I would completely get over it to get this camera. Anyways, let's get into this thing. So the R5C essentially on the photo side is identical to the R5. There is one major feature they don't offer in the photo mode, but I'll get into more of that later when it's part of the downside. But one of the really cool things is not only does the power switch turn you over to the photo mode, giving you the same menus and all that as the R5, but it now switches over to a video mode. And well, that's what's most important for this camera, because this has all the same video functions as the R5, but it has so much more. Essentially, they put you into a whole new menu system that is based upon their cinema lineup. And in this mode, you get 8K RAW offered in 3 different formats. You have it up to 60 frames per second, with the caveat that you're gonna need an external battery source or external power source if you just wanna hook it up to the wall in order to get 8K 60 RAW, which it's kind of a bummer maybe, but I mean, personally, I think that this is still an incredible camera. I never expected it to have 8K 60 at all. So just the fact that it has 8K 60 in it, you know, period, even if they have some caveats, I think it's still absolutely amazing. I love all the extra formats they're giving you here with the 3 different RAW options, as well as, you know, the 10-bit 422 and all that different stuff. They also are going to give you C-Log 3, not C-Log 2. I still don't see this as a big, you know, downer or anything, but they didn't give you the C-Log 2. Maybe that's something they'll add in a firmware update. Maybe that's something they're just going to keep for the C70. They did give the HDR mode that you can find in the R5, but they added HLG, which I'm pretty sure wasn't in the R5, but at least you know it's here now. One of the really cool things is the dual card slots not only have dual recording, but you can also change up the different formats, and you can mix and match. You can mix and match. So say for example, you want 8K RAW going to the CF Express card. You could also get, say, 8K 8-bit or 8K 10-bit going to the SD card, which I think is super cool, and it's gonna give a lot of different flexibility to a lot of different people. Maybe they wanna have the option of having a RAW recording, but also maybe don't wanna deal with RAW files completely. So maybe they're shooting a scenery and they think, oh, you know, maybe this one particular scene works great with RAW, but the rest of it can be within just the 10-bit. Maybe they have those 2 options to be able to pull the same clip over and use RAW. At least I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. I know you can change different formats. I'm assuming that RAW and like 10-bit would be 2 of the formats that you can choose, but maybe double or triple check if you're just getting it for that feature. But there's still a whole lot of cool features that you can get it for. For example, this has the 4K HQ that was found in the R5. But now it is set to 4K 60 HQ by default, and it actually goes up to the 60, so you can get some nice slow motion-ish footage. A lot of times I don't even go to 4K 120 on my A7S IV. I personally just mostly shoot 4K 60 slow-mo, but I mean, I like having the option. This does have the option for 4K 120 as well, but it will be going back to the pixel binning, so it will be slightly softer image. But another cool thing that they added is they did add audio to the 4K 120, which is pretty great. I know a lot of R5 users were hoping to have audio. Another thing that is really cool is now the 1080p is also being downsampled from that 8K. Now, I'm not exactly sure which frame rates are being downsampled, if they allow all the way up to that 120 frames being downsampled from 8K to 1080p. But if that is the case, then that may be a better option than just going to the 4K pixel binning to actually just have a downsampled 8K 1080p. 120 option. If that is an option, I think that's a cool test that needs to be done. And yet another great feature that jumps out to me is now this has a dual base ISO. So you have one starting at 800 and now another starting at 3200. I'm not sure how much this is going to translate, but theoretically this will look quite a bit cleaner at the higher ISO range. But Gordon Lang said once you get to that 12,800 range, then things start to fall apart. But most cameras fall apart there. It's not exactly a big deal, especially considering you're getting that high resolution and that high frame rate. And I'm sure it's going to be very clean all the way in that mid range. I'm pretty dang excited about this camera. Also, I mean, I'm just going to say, like, it's going to keep going down the list because it's another cool feature, but this is a big feature. They add wave formats to this camera. So not only do you have the wave formats, you have the false color, which is something that you usually get in a cinema camera, or you have to have an external monitor for it. Now with this camera, I really don't feel you have to have the need for an external monitor. Of course, it's always nice to have a bigger screen, but the R5 and this camera has a great screen already, and to have all those different added formats are just, it's excellent. This also adds the digital hot shoe that was found in the R3 and will allow you to add digital audio, as well as now it has 13 customizable buttons, which is great. It has a tally light, which is, I mean, cool. It has time code in and out, and I didn't even mention, I mean, it has a fan. I'm pretty sure you knew this, but it has a fan that's going to keep this thing pretty much completely cool. Hopefully, it seems like from most of the tests I've seen, it does not overheat. It has no record limits as far as I can tell. Now, Gordon Lang said that you're not able to turn off the fan completely, which is a minor inconvenience if you're going to be having, say, for example, you're going to be vlogging with it, or you want to have a shotgun mic on top of the camera. But still, he said it was very quiet on that lowest fan speed. And assuming that you can actually customize this to one of the buttons, what I would personally do is I would have it customized to be able to press a button and go from low to automatic. So if you went to automatic, then it's gonna heat up enough to take care of whatever overheating you have. And of course, if you have it on low, which I think for the majority of most people, you can have it on low on most of the time, and that way you could keep it silent. Since I'm using Gordon Lang for a source of a lot of this, I will link his video below so you can go check that out after you finish this video and don't ruin my watch time. Going into a few of the different things that keep it from being the perfect camera, or at least the perfect camera in my eyes, is, well, they dropped the IBIS out of this camera. So the R5 is absolutely known for having an incredible IBIS in most situations, and the fact that they dropped it out completely is a little bit odd. I wish that they had a mode that you could just lock it off. And while this is a pretty big bummer when it comes to the photo mode, I will say that I have the Canon EOS R, and it has the digital stabilization, and it really works really well, especially in video. I know with the R5, it was giving you kind of that weird wobbling on the sides when you were walking, if you were going to say vlog with it. I think that having the digital IBIS with the optical image stabilization that comes with the different lenses actually works really well when it comes to the EOS R, and I would assume that it's going to work really well in this camera as well. Really well in this camera, a lot of wells in that. So even though initially I was put off by this, the more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't really care that much, and I don't see it as super important. Now, one of the things I think they should have and definitely could have added, especially since they got rid of the IBIS, is have internal ND filters. I think that would have been an absolutely incredible addition. I don't know why they didn't do it, maybe just to differentiate themselves from the C70 and the higher end cinema line, but I think in a lot of ways this is kind of crushing the C70 in a lot of features. Not saying that the C70 doesn't have its own advantages with the extra dynamic range and even more ports and a little bit more customization. I definitely see the C70 having value, but I don't really see them protecting it in a lot of ways from this camera. So why not add the internal NDs and make this an even better camera? Now, one thing that is pretty disappointing is they're sticking with that micro HDMI port. They're not going to a full-size HDMI port, which is what we thought that they were going to have based upon the rumors. This is pretty disappointing. I don't know why they didn't add the bigger port. That small port is very flimsy and it's kind of annoying. I don't think it matters that much, but I don't think I'm going to be attaching it to an external monitor that much. Granted, to be honest, I don't even know if I'm going to be buying this camera. It's very expensive, and I really do have the cameras that I need right now. And as incredible as it would be to get this camera with a 9-month-old and a very limited budget, it kind of would fall into the luxury category for me. But hey, if you would like to possibly help me get this camera, then maybe consider subscribing and helping me grow this community. I would very much appreciate that. Now, moving on to the last little bit here, and that is the price. So the price of this camera is $44.99, which is actually my exact guess. I said between $4,500 and $4,700, and I think I said $44.99 was where I was putting it, but especially after hearing that 8K 60, I was possibly thinking it was going to go much higher. But the fact that they're bringing it out at $44.99, I think this is excellently priced camera. I think if you're one of the people that were excited for this camera, then you should still be super excited for this camera. And if you're able to pick one up, go ahead and get it. I think this is an excellent camera. I really don't see any real cripple hammer. I think there was a few different little things, maybe like a cripple stick that they hit it with a couple times, but nothing that is too dramatic that is a deal breaker, especially in my mind. Like I said, if I could afford this, I would absolutely be getting this camera. But that's all the major points that I wanted to touch in on this video, and I'm sure it's already getting pretty long, but if you've liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and until next time, peace.